Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Saturday, January 13th. Right now, we're getting some mixed rain and snow. They're calling last night for 4 to 8 inches of new snow. And today, during the day, they're talking about on and off freezing rain. And then Sunday, more snow. And then there's another storm coming up behind it. That we'll see how that goes. I thought today we would talk about being a good neighbor and a good friend. All right? So stay tuned. Alright, so welcome back. So what am I talking about today? Sorry about my voice. Been out in the weather yesterday. Talking about, I love conversations with people that have different beliefs and different views on things. And I love them not to convert them to my ideas or to take my ideas and convert them or them back to me. I love conversations with people that have a different outlook on things. It would be a very boring time for me if I was just left with my inner circle, my core group, right? Because most of the stuff in my core group, we're going to agree most of the time because we have the same belief systems, the same outlook on things, the same. So it's a given. You already know where they stand, all right? But when you get to meet somebody new or revisit a conversation with someone that you had talked with in the past that intrigued you, see, I grew up in a small town, and everybody knew everybody. And just about everybody, there were two churches in town. You had the Catholic and you had the Methodist. And either you were Catholic or you were Methodist. They had the Baptist church quite a ways off, but most of the folks in the town I grew up in were either Methodist or Catholic. So most of us knew each other from church and, church, Sunday school for when we were kids. But the key there was both, even though we were of a different religion, we both had core beliefs in God, right? So we were the same but different. We may interpret things a little different, but all in all, it's pretty much the same conversation, right? You're not really getting new news or new ideas, right? But I can remember growing up, my grandmother, I don't know if any of you guys can remember back this far. For you young guys, bear with me, all right? But we used to have party lines on the phone. And depending on how many rings the phone rang, dictated if it was someone calling you or calling the neighbor or the other neighbor. And I think there were like 6 or 7 different people on our line. And my grandmother used to eavesdrop so she could hear what was going on. And back then, they said, from both churches, they say, what it is about gossiping, it's not good to gossip. Because gossip tends to spread non-truth. Because everybody knows with gossip is the farther it gets away from the original person that started the gossip, the more stuff is either added or subtracted, right? So it could be something as simple as, did you know that Mrs. Huckle is having problems with her marriage with her husband? To, by the time it's the 10th or 11th one down, did you hear that Mrs. Huckle's getting a divorce from her husband? Which, one is saying she's having problems in the marriage. The other one is she's divorcing him. And back then, divorce wasn't looked at too friendly. Not in New York, anyways. Or at the church. If my grandfather, he taught me wise. Taught me well to be wise. And that is, instead of listening to the horse's ass, which is how many times it's been spread, go to the horse's head, and that's the person they're talking about. And straight up ask them. If it's none of my business, it's none of my business. But if you're there to offer some help, or you're genuinely interested in what's going on, and you do want to help, that's a good place to start, right? You get it from the actual person that's having the issues. It's not the gossiping going down through. But I can remember, my grandmother, she's a school teacher. But everybody knew everybody, all right? And she wasn't the only one that listened in on conversations. Other people that were on our party line listened to the conversations that we had. So, welcome to a small town. And this was before cell phones, guys. We didn't have a cell phone. We had an actual rotary dial, and it rang, and it plugged into the wall. But my grandmother had this group of people on our party line, all the women. And what they would do after Sunday service and stuff, they'd have a scheduled sit down time, where they'd all get on a phone and they'd talk about everybody in town. And if the person wasn't part of our party line, they would catch up afterwards, by calling each other of the news that they had come to the table, that they had learned. I always say, don't judge a book by its cover. And this is what happens, is a lot of people will start judging that individual that's being talked about. Maybe in not a very good light, based on listening to the horse's ass, instead of just going up and having a conversation with that person. But the way I'm tying this all in is because in a small town, when, people are in need and it's affecting a wide spectrum of people, everybody chips in and checks on everybody else. And we do it because not only is it the right thing to do, but that's how we're set up. That's, our social group. Because normally we as humans are very social, right? We like being around other people. That's why they call us social instead of antisocial. I'm not saying some people are antisocial, can't stand people. But me, on the other hand, I enjoy talking to people. Especially ones that have different points of view. And my wife is from Yonkers down in New York City. It's not part of New York City, but it's just as you're coming in. And she grew up differently than what it's like to be up here, you know. Down there, they hardly ever talk to each other. They had their own little social groups that they hung with. But they didn't know hardly anything about their neighbors. And I'm talking house to house to house to house. And up here, we're pretty spread out. I mean, the closest house to me is actually Claude's got a trailer on a lot that I bought and sold him. And he's about a quarter of a mile away. And the next house going that direction is a mile away. And then the next house up past Claude is 3/4 of a mile, and I own that too. So you don't have where you're walking and talking to all your neighbors, you know. But when we're down there, we go down there for the holidays, all right? And for birthdays, holidays, Christmas, we go down for a week. We go down for the weekend to celebrate birthdays. We go down for 3 or 4 days for Thanksgiving. But one of the things was that, you know, my wife's mother was a little asthmatic, so we didn't smoke in the house, okay? They had a porch with windows that you could go out and smoke on the porch. But what I would do is I would just get right off the porch and I light a cigarette and just go for a walk around the block. If I ran into somebody, I'd start a conversation with them because I was genuinely interested in them as a person. And at first, there was a little bit of skepticism. But the more we talked, it was kind of refreshing for them. Because they may have been brought up in a tight family, you know. Whether you're Italian or Irish, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Chinese. That's the big thing as you get down closer to New York City and you have all these different walks of life. So many people that you could have interesting conversations with. I know the one neighbor was a horse jockey, and he raced horses at Vernon Down. And I never had much of an interest in racing horses, but it was neat talking to him and his wife about how he had to keep to a certain weight limit and how the horse, how well they took care of their horses, you know. But the one thing I would do is while I was out having my smoke was I was interacting with the neighbors because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, right? Is say hello and offer help. And I would, if I saw somebody doing something, you know, if it was working on an older car or trying to get the garbage out to the curb, I offered a lending hand, no question asked. And I can remember getting back from my walk and my mother-in-law, like, Eric, what did you learn today? Because they had their own social group where they gossiped, just like Grandma. And she could get a different view of people based on what I was telling her, you know, that they're not like that. They're like this. They're really good people. You know, your neighbor races horses. He's a disc jockey, or not a disc jockey, but a jockey at Vernon Downs, you know. And it would make me laugh because there were a couple, the older families, that, because this used to be all Irish, in that area. And over time, different ones have passed away, and you now have, instead of the whole block being Irish, you have segments of Irish, Puerto Rican, Indian, Mexican. So you have so many different walks of life now in that area, instead of a core group of where everybody believed in the same belief system, right? But it used to make me laugh because a lot of the people that she would gossip with that were from around the block, and when I say around the block, if you walked up one street, down this street, down that street, and then back around, you walked past probably 75 to 100 houses plus businesses. And they had like this little grocery store on the corner, and then they had like the barber shop, the funeral home, hairdresser, other storefronts that were there. But it would get back to my mother-in-law that people thought I was a cop, an undercover cop, asking a bunch of questions. So that would make me laugh. That even talking about me, they had no clue. Girls. Because you get down around the city and a cop is going to give you eye contact. Everybody has a tendency to have their heads down, but if this social media that we have nowadays, Facebook, Snapchat, MySpace is pretty much gone now. Yahoo chat, I don't think anybody's using anymore. But I think it's changing how we're being social. And the only thing is, a person can lie right to your face, if you're in front of them. But most times I can tell by body language and eye contact and stuff whether someone is being truthful with me or whether they're just spewing bullshit, right? It's a little harder when you start getting into like Facebook and all that. Snapchat, you're only seeing a snap of their life. That's why they call it Snapchat. It's a segment. And Facebook is a lot of the same way. Is you're only seeing just a certain portion. You're seeing the portion that person wants you to see, and not the rest of the stuff that is important on in getting to know that person. I think people are more reserved on the platforms of letting other people know who they really are. And that saddens me in a way because, the platform is giving way. We always had bullies in school. But now that we have so many social platforms with the kids, that a whole group can gang up on one. And there have been cases of where kids actually committed suicide from the bullying that was taking place. That never should have happened. All right. Again, we had a bully when I was in school, but either you stayed clear of them or you got your group of guys together and confronted them. And a lot of times they were being the way they were because they were trying to hide who they were. They were actually very insecure, not very outgoing, and approached people that way. But the main thing I want to get across in this video is the more people you can have conversations with that have different views and outlooks than you do is a learning lesson. just because somebody, with me being Methodist, if the person's Catholic, there's no reason for me to dislike that person because they're Catholic instead of being Methodist. That's kind of asinine, right? If I'm going to dislike that person, it's going to be based on the person and how they act towards me or how they react. And the social platforms kind of hide that. And even YouTube, like with these here, you're seeing what that person wants you to see. And maybe not the whole glimpse of what's going on. One of the things that I decided when I started this channel was I was going to be real. I was going to be me, and not some persona that I thought you wanted to see, but who I hoped would be someone you wanted to talk to or meet or have different views. And we have things in common, when it comes to repairing stuff, right? Or running a business. And I know a lot of you folks are here, and I appreciate it, for the personal development, how to learn, how to grow, how to get back into the game called life, But what you see when you see my videos is the real me. I mean, why would I want to be somebody else? And I hope that you could be the same way of just being you. You don't need to be better. You don't need to try to prove something to me. Just being you is good enough for me. And I see that a lot. People are trying to outdo one another, And it's all like this contest of who can outdo the other. And it doesn't matter the walks of life. I mean, with your social media platforms, a lot of times your influencers are nothing like they claim to be when they get off camera. They're somebody totally different. But they figured out for entertainment value or social status that that's who you want them to be, so they will be that to get views, subscribers, and likes and shares to their channel. But I think if you really take a good look at some of these influencers and the stuff that they're doing and saying are totally different than what they're actually doing in real life. And that's a shame. It's too bad that you have to be somebody it's not. If you want to be an actor, okay, and you want to be somebody that you're not, get into the movies. Get into politics. Hell, every politician that I've ever known would tell you what you want to hear and then go do something totally different. So you could be a great politician. But when you're around me, just be yourself. You're good enough just the way you are. You don't need to impress me or win me over. I'm a people person. I enjoy being around people, especially ones that have different views. So when you walk away from this video, understand that, one, you can't always go by what people tell you in gossip. Two, on a lot of your social networks and stuff that are out there that you guys are part of, you can't always take as fact of what somebody is telling you. Really. Most people that I see are trying to get attention and are acting out and doing crazy ass crap to get your attention. And they're not letting you get to see the real you. And I think, for you younger folks, it might be time to limit how much time you spend on social media and get together with friends and meet new people. Walk your neighborhood. Get to know your neighbors. Up here, I'm friends with people that are 30, 40 miles away. And my in-laws, we would go to like the grocery store in Governor, and I was running into a lot of people I knew, and we were visiting, and they're like, how many people do you know that you can just strike up a conversation and people know you in the grocery store? Well, I work with some of them. Others are my neighbors in town getting their groceries. And I never turned down an opportunity to visit with people. I enjoy being around people. I mean, there are days, don't get me wrong, that I love animals terrible. As you can tell, my 2 German Shepherds are sisters. They hang right with me wherever I go. They're right on my heels. And they're always happy to see me, whereas some people aren't. And my cows are the same way. When they hear the four-wheeler or the side-by-side start up, they know they're getting their grain, and they come running. And like, with it being winter, I feed hay to them and give them grain. So when they hear the tractor start, they all head for the troughs because they know that they get their grain first. And I put a silage bale out for them. So the older cows are usually eating the grain. And that gives the younger guys a chance to get in there and get some silage bale. But the thing with the animals, the dogs, is they're happy to see you. They don't piss and moan all the time. No matter what the weather is, my cows are always happy to see me. But for the most part, I'm outgoing and I enjoy being around people. And I think if you want to expand on who you are overall as a person, the more points of view that you get a chance to talk to other people about, the more rounded you are as an individual. And the better you will be in the long run. So on that note, you guys enjoy your Saturday. I've got my grandson's birthday party. He turned 7 or 8 last week. But they're having it at the local bowling alley. And what my son and his fiance do is they rent part of the bowling alley and they have pizza brought in with a cake, and all the kids get to bowl, and some of the adults get down there and bowl. So that'd be neat, to go over and visit with them and celebrate his birthday. But on that note, you guys enjoy your weekend. And just think about it, Get out of the house. Get off your social media platforms and go out and meet people. Especially people that have different points of view than you. It will make you worldly, as they say. All right.